lady up we have is Lizzie Dyson. I've met Lizzie before. She runs Ladies That UX and BBC Sports Persona Refresh in 6 weeks. What's that?
That's my talk.
Oh,
sorry.
I thought it was part of your introduction. Okay, Lizzie is she's a user experience designer and on the sports team at the BBC and is co-founder of Ladies That UX. She's also organising something called Talk UX. It's a conference that has got a female lineup to discuss everything under the user experience umbrella. When's that on?
It's on the 5th of March.
The 5th of March. There you go. Date for your diaries. Get it in there. Get your hashtag up there. Get it all tweeted about.
We're still accepting speakers if anybody's interested in applying. So it's at talk-ux.com.
Marvellous. So anyone fancies to go speaking, there we go. Can we please have a big round of applause for Lizzie?
Yeah, so as we just said, I'm Lizzie Dyson and I'm part of the BBC Sports team, and we've just managed to do a persona refresh in about 6 weeks, and this normally takes like a good couple of months. So I thought I'd talk about the process and how we managed to get through it. So the old personas, as you can see, they look a bit drab and a bit lifeless. And one of the major things about this is that none of these users are using tablets, and considering like technology today, it's a bit mad. So we thought we'd give them a little bit of love. Surprisingly, one of our hardest tasks was actually the first thing that we had to do was to let people know what the difference between a persona and a market segment was. So a lot of people, when we said we were going to do personas, were saying, "Oh, great! So how are we going to target this awkward audience that we're really struggling to get on board?" And we were saying, "No, this is a persona is all about what our current users are doing and we can design for them." So what we first did was we put old personas up on the wall, and using green post-it notes, we pulled out everything that we knew was a fact with based on research that we already had internally. Orange was assumptions that we wanted to clarify, and pink was all the nice fluffy stuff that made them seem like real people. These assumptions then went up on the wall, so it meant that we could go back to these and make sure that we were always answering these questions, and that we could verify them. And having the work up on the wall meant that it was naturally drawing people in, and people were asking, "What is it that you're up to, and how can I help?" And we ended up sort of by proxy doing these mini interviews, and all the answers that people gave we put on post-it notes and ended up putting them up on the wall. And we started to see patterns in the data that we were collecting. And this helped us to inform our research, because we went on to do public interviews, and it helped us to inform the process of getting people on board. So the public interviews, blurred out her face so you can't tell who she is. We had cards with all the different sports that the BBC covers, and asked the people to put in order their preference of their favourite at the top and the least favourite at the bottom. And then we also had a screenshot of every page on the BBC Sports website, so if they wanted to refer to it, then they could. And these interviews also meant that we got like little stories that sort of we could put into the persona that make them seem more realistic when we use them as a tool in the future. Behind the two-way glass, we also had our stakeholders that we'd invited along. It was really good to have these people there, because they're the ones that don't really get to see the users, and they all think that every user thinks like them and thinks like the family. So when we get a 65-year-old coming in that tinkers away in his shed, and he's got the radio on with his iPad propped on the side with the Sports Live page refreshed, they were all really surprised about that. And I'm like, "Oh my God, a guy over 50 is using a tablet." They don't seem to see these people, which was really good. And it meant that they were also writing down key takeaways the whole way through, and it got them thinking about real users. So we then took these away and developed stories. We cut these all up into sentences and rearranged them and added extra bits with post-it notes that we'd forgotten. This took about 10 versions and iterations. It was a bit of a tedious process. But then we took this back to post-it note porn wall, I think. If you're UX, this is like post-it note, post-it porn. So yeah, we verified it against our internal staff interviews. I've never used so many post-its in my life, and made sure that we'd not forgotten anything. And then added those bits into the story. These then got designed up and made pretty, and we took these to a naming ceremony where we got all the stakeholders and clients in a room and split them up into teams, and these then came up with a name, and they had to read it back to the rest of the groups and explain why they'd called them that. Whilst everybody else in the room also wrote down key takeaways and questions that they'd like to ask the user if they got the chance. And that was the process in 6 weeks. And that's me.